is a strange bird. She's an artist, a filmmaker, a researcher, a writer, an architect, an imposter. No, trained as an architect. So she comes, she lives and works in Portugal, in Lisbon. However, for quite some time now, her research has been based in and about Mozambique. And maybe it will expand to other places like Tanzania, or we don't know yet.
Within the Mozambican history.
Within the, yeah. So it's about Mozambican history. Right now you've just been able to go to Mozambique and work with the film archives of Mozambique. So she writes, she does a lot of lecture performances, and they are really special because she's able to show material that otherwise she cannot show in video installations or in books. I should be a little bit less eccentric. So she has been presented at the Serralves Museum, Manifesta 8, Africa.cont, and other institutions across Europe and Mozambique, as well as in Beirut, which is where I met her, Zagreb, and New York. The last thing I will say is that she's just come back from Mozambique, and she has some piping hot new material to share with us. So we're very lucky. Thank you, Catarina.
Help me? I can't. Oh yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you, Rasha. Well, first of all, thank you, Koyo and Rasha, for this invitation. It was really amazing to think that we're going to work together in all these echoes. As Rasha said, I just came from Mozambique, and I choose to do a very risky thing here. I'm going to present some new images and some new ideas attached to these images. So maybe I'll try to be very descriptive, although I can't really, at this point, engage in sexy names for everything. Like I don't have still a very clear idea of one common ground. I feel that there is many things that we can say about all this material. So the structure is very simple. I'm going to do like a small introduction that the curators told me a little bit it will be necessary just to introduce the context. And then I'm going to show 3 different kinds of film excerpts and clips that relate to 3 different kinds of new collaborations that I'm starting now with filmmakers and image makers, if I can tell that, from Mozambique. So since 2009, that I've been working in the reconstitution of the remains of one particular archive, the Film Archive of Mozambique. This collection is made of the national cinema production in post-colonial Mozambique that is kept in a state archive in Maputo. So the oldest film in the archive is from 1921, so still in the colonial area, and the most recent is from 1991, the year when a fire completely destroyed the building and the devices for visualization. With the building, many of the films of this collection also burned. Since then, there were several European agencies interested on doing the recovery of this archive, but for many reasons, they were not successful. So, cinema production in post-independent Mozambique shows how memory production, based on its colonial past, was constantly resuscitated so as to give meaning to the socialist revolution in process in the country after independence. Working with this archive of war and victory has been a way to see how some images can contradict Western mitigation policies over its imperialist past. In that case, the violence has its origin not in the specific content of the images, but rather in the perception that those images from past seem to reveal something to come, like the return of a ghost or a puzzle configuration that we cannot or we're not prepared to solve within our epistemological tools. So for my project, having no clear definition of this archive, because its organization is not consensual, because it's crumbling and inaccessible, became the proposal of not defining this archive in any situation. Reconstitution has been understood as an expanded practice and not a project aiming a specific goal, as it will be the case of a technical or historiographical reconstitution. So Frelimo, the party that has been in power since independence till our days, was also the movement that achieved political independence through 10 years of struggle against the Portuguese troops. But only during the struggle and in the first 10 years of the government, Frelimo had a strong political strategy for image. Samora Machel, that you can see here in this image, the Frelimo's leader, saw in cinema and its mobility a modern device with potential to reinforce overseas relations and collaboration with socialist countries, their allies. On the home front, cinema would help to apply the tasks of organizing the country, the general mobilization of the population, and recruitment of men to new wars. Since Machel's death in a plane crash in Mebuzine in 1986, South African territory, that this policy of extreme visibility stopped. The South African officials issued a report blaming the crash entirely on error by the Russian crew. The Russian government developed their own inquiry, which concluded that the plane had been misdirected by a decoy beacon that was set up to pull off its course. The decoy led pilots to believe that they were above flat terrain near Maputo, when they were in fact flying straight into the mountains. The plane crash effectively ended a popular republic of Mozambique, because ironically in this plane crash with Samora Machel, many of his more close advisors died, and also with him the team of trustful cameramen that always accompanied Machel in the street. All of them except one that survived and lives till today. But this man was brutally blocked by the government to continue his task of image maker. He lives frustrated because he can't continue what he has been trained for. Although he had an incredible experience as a photographer and in a video maker in the hardest conditions during the struggle. Images, films, and records that were serving Frelimo's interest before Samora Machel's death were retrieved from this archive, forbidden to show or alter, change, cut. This hidden sets this Mozambican archive project back to the beginning, creating a new phase in this art of ghosts and also inviting to a completely new engagement in my own approach to reconstitution. So this new project I'm starting now, it's again a collaboration with 3 different filmmakers. Some of them wanted not to be mentioned, so I'll respect that. And some of them had their film forbidden, for example. Others were blocked in our activities. And also, one of them wanted to real work into these forbidden images, despite the politics of fear and threats coming from the government. So again, I could present these clips as images that were forbidden or in the closed archives, but I feel that mainly there is a common ground based on this idea of training that suddenly was blocked or caused frustration or was reconducted to ways that were not expected at the beginning. So I'm going to separately talk about different images, and please imagine that, or feel free to imagine all the time this idea of absolute and radical training that was behind all these images, from what is filmed and also from what the person that is filming. So this first film I'm going to show, it's a small clip. It's a very complex and rare film document. It's called The Compromised: Records of a Decolonization Process. And access to these films were today completely and officially forbidden. It's a series of 42 episodes of archive footage that I'm trying to put together by assembling lost bits that I found in other supports and personal archives outside Mozambique. It was edited from more than 50 hours of rushes and was supposed to be the full record of 4 days of a highly intense meeting. This meeting was held in 1982 in Maputo between Frelimo party and state and thousands of Mozambicans who were committed to the repressive colonial fascist organizations. These organizations were the Fascist Political Party, ANP, the secret police, PIDE, known as the Portuguese Gestapo, special military groups like commanders and others. Most Portuguese settlers and white Mozambicans had fled massively after the independence in 1975, but the ones in states had remained in Mozambique despite their civil rights had already been redrawn. It was Samora Machel that made it possible to be recorded and broadcast all these images. Samora himself led the proceedings while the compromised with the occupying Portuguese faced public exposure and confessed their misdeeds. A little bit of context. It's in the aftermath of the independence, a civil war was slowly building towards the end of the 70s. So Frelimo was facing with the problem of what to do with those Mozambicans who had bought into Portuguese ideology during the struggle and were likely to refuse to adhere to this new notion of what a Mozambican citizenship would mean. So in order to impose a national revolutionary consciousness, Frelimo wanted to establish a radical discontinuity with colonial regime by eradicating alleged enemies from society. So we're talking about executions. But the war against Mozambique, supported by South Africa, was becoming more intense, and Frelimo couldn't afford to lose Mozambican citizens anymore, and worst, to lose them for the enemy. Therefore, at this point, Frelimo's speech shifts completely. Frelimo and Machel did not openly recognize that they needed the compromised, particularly the younger men, to fight in the civil war. Yet deploying them was one of the outcomes of this meeting, and it's expressed on the last of these 3 clips that I'm going to show. The action happened in a room with the main slogan decorating the wall. When we free Mozambique, the ones compromised with colonialism also gain a patria, a fatherland. Although the message tends to express acceptance and forgiveness, the content of what Machel speaks, sings, and shouts demonstrates that he desires a particular human confrontation. It's politics in arts. Initially, the compromised were invited to come forward on a voluntary basis. But as clarifications were omitted concerning disclosures of this meeting will lead, the initial ambience is characterized by fear In the room, the compromised were seated in groups according to the colonial organizations to which they had belonged, with boards named after these organizations, reproducing in that room like a draft model of the colonial regime. Just to be sure.
Vamos esquecer o tempo que passou. Chamado o rapaz. Mais de 5 filhos, chamado Catarina. 15 anos, chamado o Senhor. Quem pode esquecer o que passou? Não vamos esquecer o que passou. Estava a dizer a verdade.
Sr. Presidente, pelo menos por aquilo que eu tenho ouvido e daquilo que penso saber, nós dizemos que não há brancos, não há pretos, não há mistos, há moçambicanos, não é?
Que raça somos aqui? Alienação. Tu tens medo de dizer que és preto. Tu és preto.
Não tive vergonha de dizer aquilo que sou.
De ser português não tinhas. Não tinhas. Mas agora tu tens vergonha de dizer que sou preto. És preto tu. Estou a dizer agora. É visto? Obrigado. Em que comissão estamos?
Na comissão da estação.
É ali onde está o conteúdo todo, não é verdade? É lá onde está. Era a forma do conteúdo. Toda a estrutura, tu concebias, vivias já. Problema colonial, administração colonial. Tu eras quadro. Para trabalhar, ver as grades, os acentos, a pontuação, redigir. É preciso viver para redigir, correto?
Eu não redigi, eu estava como
mas melhor és tu do que aqueles que andam a escrever. Agora, dar a forma.
Eu não tinha o festival
Qual era a forma? Eu não me ideia.
Eu, sim, senhor.
Não aparece a forma. Como é que está aqui mais a frente?
A tónica, Sr. Presidente, era defender intransigentemente a pátria portuguesa. É isso que lá dizia.
Tinha um ideal. Matava em nome de quem?
Eu nunca matei ninguém, Sr. Presidente.
Na ANP? A tropa lutava em nome de quem? Vocês é que estão carregados de sangue ali, os MP. Que eles são operadores, assassinos. Mas quem equipava aqueles? Aqueles GE, GP, OPV, comandos. E o exército ele próprio. Quem equipava essas forças todas? A MP. O que é que vocês criam neste banquete colonial? Ao lado dos opressores, ao lado do estrangeiro, colonialista, que humilha, brutaliza. O que é que vocês moçambicanos criam? Diga. Faça a volta para ali.
Portanto, éramos 50 homens. Cada grupo era composto por 25 elementos. E juntaram-se a nós, salvo erro, acima de 15, não se nos quer contar, acima de 15 elementos da PID. Portanto, para reforçar e, ao mesmo tempo, fazer investigações. Porque eles é que tinham instruções do que é que se passava nesse aldeamento. E nós
Os da PID?
Os da PID.
Comunicaram ao exército?
Exatamente, Sr. Presidente. Eles é que tinham conhecimento do que é que se passava nesse aldeamento. Deram instruções ao comandante de companhia que tudo quanto encontrássemos nesse aldeamento era para deitar abaixo. Vieram 2 helicópteros que nos levaram ao local. Chegados ao local, então, o comandante da companhia mandou espalhar, isto é, montar segurança aos soldados em volta do aldeamento. E os da PID começaram então a fazer interrogatórios. Interrogatórios esses, penso eu, baseavam-se em procurar saber quem que é o rego do aldeamento, se a população tinha ligação ou não com a Frelimo. O que se apurou na altura, Sr. Presidente, não sei dizer. Simplesmente começamos a ouvir bombardeamentos de granadas de mão. Isto é, juntavam as populações e atiravam as granadas para o meio delas. Finda então a operação, queimaram as palhetas mesmo. Finda também a operação, o capitão, nosso capitão, mandou então retirar-nos da zona. E assim regressamos. Senhor Presidente, foi acima de 100 pessoas. Liquidar as
Viram a figura? LP de exército. Estão a ver, não estão? Obrigado, amigo. Era mais difícil. GP. Essas provocações, vejam o que vocês nos fazem lembrar. Estão a ver, não estão? Quantos minutos para limpar a vocês? Digam lá, vocês são militares. Quantos minutos? Um pelotão de 25 homens armados de G3. Quantos minutos? Sim, olhem para trás para ver o número de vocês. Depois de dar-me os minutos. Quantos minutos? Comandos, quantos minutos para estes? Meio minuto. com as mãos? Com as mãos.
So, what is surprising about these images is that, in one hand, this group of commanders were part of a new group leading the training of men to fight in a civil war. But in the other hand, this meeting and the persons that were invited to assist, to attend, considered it a model for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that happened in South Africa under Mandela's government. Maybe we can, at the end, talk more about, I'm sure you have questions. So the second excerpt is an excerpt of an interview. Carlos Jambo is the name of the cameraman of Samora Machel that survived to the crash in October 1986. Jambo was trained as video cameraman first in Tanzania, where Frelimo had a headquarters during the struggle from 62 to 74. And then, after independence, he kept his training in video with the help of Jean-Luc Godard, that was invited to come to Mozambique at that time. I met him just some weeks ago in Maputo, and he accepted to be interviewed. I told him how I first knew about him. He was interviewed by an Italian reporter in 1980, and I decided to follow his track when I saw his interview in YouTube. He told me about the crash and about his personal curse that I can read now as a political sign of a non-assumed transitional moment in Mozambique. Jambo was clearly remoted from his activity as a cameraman after the accident. Government treated him as if he meant to have died with Samora Machel in that day. After Machel's death, political changes in Mozambique turned the country into a clear compromise with liberal market and capitalism, clearly in interests, with clear interest, which interests were not compatible with the extreme visibility that Samora Machel promoted, even if it was considered somehow extreme, as when you think that he was also broadcasting public executions of traitors in the city. Today, Carlos Jambo fights against the government because his value has not been recognized, and even he has been denied. But also history in Mozambique apparently has been not recognized as important, which is a pity because he has an incredible contribution to give with his knowledge and memory. So I'm going to show you a small excerpt of this interview.
Le Mozambique, ça dure une dizaine de minutes. C'est donc un reportage italien, donc sous-titré en italien, avec une personne qui parle en portugais. Donc vous avez envie de voir ça? Je pense que c'est des images très rares. En fait, moi, mon travail à la Cinémathèque française, c'est retrouver des images oubliées. Donc, j'étais contente de les retrouver. Ben voilà, alors peut-être on peut regarder le Mozambique.
Qual foi a sua formação e aonde foi feita, a nível profissional de vídeo? Bom, a minha formação, a nível de vídeo, eu tive experiência na Tanzânia e tive a experiência com um grande realizador, um grande cineasta chamado Logodar. E com ele fizemos alguns documentários de experiência. E a primeira nossa câmera, que é Mozambique Independente, adquirimos a vez dele. E a partir daí fiquei interessado em vídeo e comecei a realizar trabalho em vídeo.
Là, vous avez travaillé avec ce monsieur Carlos
Ça me dit quelque chose, mais je m'en souviens pas très bien. Nós tínhamos as seguintes palavras na Frelimo: produção, combate, a saúde, escolas. Então, as fotografias tinham que se basear precisamente nesse todo o nosso processo que nós estamos a fazer. É o combate, é a produção, é a saúde, é a escola, é o contato com o povo. Então, as fotografias, treinamento dos soldados. Então, as fotografias baseavam-se nisto tudo que eu estou a dizer. Convidaram o Logodar, que veio a Moçambique, precisamente para me dar mais impulsos em vídeo e como fazer uma imagem. Quando está para fazer uma entrevista, como preparar o guião, como preparar o espaço terreno, convidar o cliente para estar junto a si, para não estar nervoso. Então, pronto, como que fazíamos? Tínhamos uma máquina Polaroid, tirávamos fotografia, a pessoa onde vamos entrevistar e mostrávamos a imagem. E a pessoa ficava liberta, ficava contente por nos assistir. Então, fazíamos algumas filmagens e mostrávamos de novo ao camponês ou a quem vamos fazer. Então, a pessoa ficava cativada em querer ver num ecrã e escutar a sua própria voz. Então, foi isso que os ensinamentos que eu tive com o Bebi, com o Júnior Logodar, foi um grande homem para mim, um grande homem, e comecei a fazer. E as imagens que eu fazia, o Samora Machado gostava muito. Existe necessidade de fazer a história, porque quando fazemos a história não é para nós, é para os que ficam atrás, para não que estamos a fazer não ficar apagado, para ir para frente. Ainda para fazer a história da independência não precisa ser insistência. Não fomos obrigados a pegar a arma para fazer a independência. Então, não se pode obrigar as pessoas para pegarem de novo, reaver o carro do Jambo para poder fazer a história. Se eles tiverem consciência, vão reaver, mas não precisa ser obrigação. Não precisa escrever. Há uma maneira boa assim. Quando você quer matar o rato em cima do prato, tem que criar antimanha. Porque se você mata o rato em cima do prato, vai partir o prato, amanhã vai comer aonde?
The third block of images are called measurements. And I should give a little bit of context before I show the images. So, under a mutual accord of economic interchange and to increase development, Mozambique government prompts immigration toward Eastern Bloc countries. Between 1979 and the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, about 16,000 Mozambican people, often in their 20s, left Mozambique for East Germany. They discovered Europe, the extreme cold, communism, and often racism. They were taxi drivers, factory workers, and doing any kind of possible job. With the fall of Berlin Wall, all of them were sent home again, returning to a country that had not prepared their return because the civil war was still going on. They were called the Germans, that means the ones from Germany. Their experience in Europe had been so intense that they started a separate community inside the Mozambican society. They brought different attitude and vision of themselves, different clothes and gadgets that made them feel distinct from the others. In 1991, the Mozambican filmmaker Licínio Azevedo turned a film called Farewell GDR that told the story of this forced return. But this film was forbidden to be shown in theaters and in TV. The government feared an insurrection that finally happened anyway. Before they left, Frelimo set a simple rule. 60% of their salary was sent directly to Mozambique in the blocked bank account to be returned to them only when they would come back. But when they would come back, nothing went as planned. Mozambican government kept postponing and finally never paid what it owed them. 25 years after, they are still fighting for their rights and their money. Every Wednesday, each week, they demonstrate in the biggest avenue in the capital. They shout slogans against the government, which they are the only to be authorized to. But this exception was obtained through blood. The police shot them during the first manifestations, and Germans are kept killed until today. It was there recently. I was there recently, and their meeting point, that it's a garden inside the city, that it serves as their base. They have a German flag in the middle of the garden that it's displayed as a way to show the presence of a new state inside the state. Recordings there are absolutely not allowed by police. So I was filming very discreetly and maybe talking to them, getting to know them, and discovering that during 25 years, the Germans developed also a philosophy. This philosophy came from Ujamaa, the word in Swahili related to Nyerere's African socialism based on familyhood. They deconstructed the model of the new man created with independence, where they point many political contradictions and basic manipulation. They promote their own social economic policies. They do collective agriculture. They practice acceptance of different cultures and religions inside the group. The Germans reenact today the remains of their socialist training. So we're going to see first the images I took recently, and then the film from Licínio Azevedo from 91. Some excerpts, of course.
Agora esta canção diz, oi Frelimo, esses tipos não tiveram piedade, esses tipos não tiveram piedade, roubaram o dia que nós trabalhamos, com muito suor, muito sacrifício, na neve, no frio, diz tudo isso. É, mas essa mulher tem essa história. A ver, mole é mole, dinheiro e salário.
Sonhador, e eu tinha sempre o desejo de sair aqui em Moçambique, nem que fosse por pouco tempo. Eu já não queria mais sofrer. É uma das causas que me fez eu ir à RDA.
Fui lá em 83. A situação estava péssima aqui no país.
Eu fui para a Alemanha porque perdi o ano, fiquei grávida e inocentemente, né? Que o meu marido namorado, né, não quis saber nada de mim.
Fui para lá para trabalhar e para fazer uma pequena parte do meu futuro.
O que eu pensava em fazer na RDA era para eu trabalhar, conseguir dinheiro para abrir uma cabeleireira ou uma empresa. É aquilo que eu precisava, é aquilo que eu sonhava, era o meu sonho.
Um filho na Alemanha, como a Alemanha. Como eu tinha uma moça, eu ter um filho, para ver o meu filho bem vestido, andar bem, limpo, comer bem.
Desde a vida na RDA me trouxe então um fato para nós, o nosso grande inimigo. Primeiro é frio e segundo era o racismo. Era um grande trabalhador, um trabalhador exemplar. Por isso, no dia 1 de maio de 1989, fui condecorado, ganhei esta medalha. E o testemunho dessa medalha é este diploma aqui, onde na primeira página pode-se ler: trabalhadores socialistas aprendem a viver.
Nós cá, o povo ainda não entendia nada do que é isso de socialismo. Apenas o nosso governo, sim, acho que já os responsáveis sabiam o que era socialismo, mas o nosso povo em si não sabia o que é isso de socialismo.
O que eu trouxe da RDA, eu não esperava que eu ia encontrar aqui em Moçambique, mesmo se eu ficasse 100 ou 200 anos.
E nós, quando chegamos ali, nós trabalhávamos até passarmos os horários de trabalho. E eles viam que até deram os nomes de robôs.
Well, Mendes, the one that was the leader of the group, his grandfather was political prisoner in Portugal because he was mobilizing people against colonialism and fascism, and was made prisoner and sent to Mozambique. And he was always recalling his grandfather and telling me he felt that is in his blood, this kind of attitude and activism. Well, Mendes, this same person, was telling me while we were talking that the last government accepted and assumed the death of towards Ma Germans, and with Licínio de Azevedo, the filmmaker that couldn't really work with this film inside Mozambique, well, we were planning to screen again this film, and because with this new situation when there's hope for after 25 years that they will get their money, use this screening to start a new film. Well, that's all. Thank you. Thank you.
Have you seen an East German flag in that community of my Germans?
Yes, it's East German and also actual flag of Germany. It's like mixed, what they can get. And also you see the American flag, but it's just a provocation. They know that the government doesn't like too much the American flag, so they try to create some irritation by using it. Not that the U.S. has nothing to do with the cause, but it's just for provocation.
Any other questions? Any other questions? I will speak Russian. Okay, please. Can you hear the translation? Okay, good. So, watching Soviet films about Mozambique and watching what you showed, we can come to the conclusion that in 1975, in fact, one propaganda changed the other one, looking at the videos. Do you think one totalitarianism changed for the other one? Am I right saying that? What do you think? Thank you.
Can you develop more change for another one? In what terms? In what aspects?
The other one totalitarianism was replaced by the other one. The first aspect is cinematography aspect. I don't know what was operated in the Salazar area, but I saw what Soviet operators operated in Mozambique, and it was obviously propaganda. And I think Mozambique cameramen did the same, like the ones who belonged to the who served upper classes. Is it true?
You mean this intentional look in the photograph aiming certain aspects?
Ну да, но они же были всегда с ним, как
Yes, they were always with him, like with Khrushchev, with Brezhnev, with Soviet leaders. You know, they operated particular things. They shoot particular things, right?
Actually, we talked about this a little bit before. It's exactly the same methodology. The cult of the leader was necessary, and all the circulation and the geography of the traveling of Samora Machel were meant to create this idea of first nationalism. I'm thinking about one film in particular where he comes from the north to the south, to declare this territory as the new nation, no? Because Mozambique is built of tribes, and tribes have a different configuration of territory, and he was forcing to recognize the former colonial frontiers, of course. So there's many contradictions in that nationalism, of course. Mozambique independent had this, first they are kept the Portuguese language, which was the colonial language, but using it as a process of increasing the idea of nation. And with this, they kept the colonial configuration of the country. They were not interested on configuring along with the tribe territory landscape, of course. So the films and the photography also during the struggle was also pointing the territory that was being conquered against the resistance of Portuguese troops. So it's a map. It's a mapping process.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, remarks from the floor? You're welcome. Yes, I would like to find out, if possible. I want to clarify a little bit, to understand better, deeper. What was it, more positive or more negative in Frelimo influence? Frelimo, his influence, more positive or more negative versus Neo-colonialism, Portuguese neo-colonialism. I want to understand the role of Frelimo. Was it more positive or more negative? Could you comment on that? Thank you.
There's a missing spot in your formulation. It's more positive or negative towards what? In my opinion, I couldn't say that. It's an historical fact. I can't have really a position towards this. But what I feel talking with people and then seeing and reading the official history conveyed by Frelimo, the two, they don't match. And this is more or less natural. You can find this in many configurations of new nations. You have to project the country as an image before it exists. So it's like a projection. And it's mainly the purpose of propaganda, to reveal an image of something that is about to come, no? For people to start believe and act in certain way and build a mindset in this process. So this is propaganda. This is how, in that context, things were. But of course, because it was a model, it had these contradictions. And that's why I feel that watching the cracks and the conflicting moments in that interrogation, you can actually achieve very clearly something much more truth, that is the confrontation between political decision and human behavior. People were engaging, Mozambican black were people that were engaged in Portuguese troops. They were trained to fight, and in critical moments they could be seen as political prisoners or mainly a candidate for execution. But in this situation, when Mozambique was weak and needed more men with expertise, they were like reused. And that's why I wanted to very much to show this last moment of the interrogation, when Marshall clearly prompts the group of ex-commandos to describe an attack. What is the timing for killing everyone that is here? You know, that he's exciting them to see their energy and redirect this energy towards what is interesting for him at a time that was fighting the aggressions from South African power and willing to enter the city. That was a plan that didn't happen, but was planned to happen. They already had submarines in the way to arrive to Maputo. So he was extremely, they were extremely necessary at that time. They were a little bit older, but some of them were directly in the fight, and others were part of training. They give training to other people. So I don't know, maybe it's not, I'm not answer if it's positive or negative. I think it's, everything it's really interesting. And basically because all the contact I have with these images from this archive are the official memory, are the official history. And we don't have, or they don't have, ways to redo all the history, but they can use these images and look at them in a special way to see the cracks, and through them rewrite what was there exactly. So I met one filmmaker that was son of one of these compromised and wanted to understand him in the family in this situation. And he wanted to do a film, and I brought him these images, and it was the first step for many conversations, and he's in process of doing something with this.
Спасибо.